may have some statements in closing, if you allow.
That's fine.
Okay. So
How many witnesses do you have?
there's several, 5 or 6, give or take. Yep. Y'all want to come forward, step forward, Ms. Chenevert, and maybe we can start with Dr. Haygood. And I'll tell you what, Dr. Haygood, I'll give you, once you sit in the center here.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. You can introduce yourself.
I'm Ryan Haygood.
Yeah.
I'm from Shreveport, Louisiana. Good afternoon. I'm a dentist in Shreveport. In 2010, the Board of Dentistry revoked my license. I endured a 4-day hearing that's best described as a kangaroo court.
Speak it to the mic, please.
Yes, sir. For 4 days, I had no rights, and there was no due process. While this sounds unbelievable and extreme, the courts have agreed. A supposedly fair and impartial 3-dentist panel found me guilty on 8 specifications under 2 separate charges. They took my license to practice, and they fined me over $173,000 in fines and legal fees and investigative fees. This conviction included charges that the board had already dismissed, and other charges where the board literally produced no evidence at all against me. That's correct. On acts where the board produced no evidence at all against me, this supposedly non-biased panel found my guilt by clear and convincing evidence. This revocation was overturned by the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals in a strongly worded 3-0 rebuke. We hold this conduct as violative of the Louisiana Administrative Procedure Act and Dr. Haygood's due process right to a neutral adjudicator in a fair hearing. In 2011, I filed a lawsuit against the board attorney, their investigator, 2 unlicensed investigators, and several local dentists, including my local board rep, that conspired with the board to take my license. After doing extensive discovery, the board and the members in the hearing panel were later added as defendants. We're still in litigation today. In November 2013, the Second Circuit Court of Appeals cited the Fourth Circuit ruling, which suggests the potential of a corrupted investigation and a strong inference that members of the board engaged in the conduct attributed to Dr. Ross Dees, a local competitor. If some of the allegations regarding Dr. Dees' behavior are proved, the court added, they would strongly suggest Dr. Dees' conduct was less motivated by altruistic concern for the public than an animus to suppress a competitor. They would also prove that other board members agreed with Dr. Dees to engage in conduct to accomplish these objectives. The allegation that a direct primary competitor may have initiated a board investigation, served as an expert, and rendered spurious opinions that resulted in revocation of my license remains to be resolved. In 2016, the dental board renewed its charges against me. This despite the original charges being born out of false reports, criminal action, perjury, and fraud. They used the same acts and occurrences for which I'm currently suing them. This is clearly a violation of the Unfair Trade Act, which is LARS 511409, for which they are now being sued. This statute now mandates that triple damages upon verdict in my favor. The board changed the remanded charges from the Fourth Circuit to gain an advantage. Things that were never provable were watered down to help their case. This is double jeopardy and is a violation of my due process. Despite my hygienist already signing consent decrees for substandard violations, I was once again charged with fraud. While it's not possible for fraud and substandard violation to coexist, the board didn't care. They violated their own policies and procedures manual that was written after I sued them to help ensure due process. By impaneling a jury that had complete knowledge of my case, the hearing committee chairman made it known to my attorney that he was not happy that I was suing him. At the time, the investigator was under criminal investigation and was at risk for losing his PI license. He lied under oath about the status of his license. Even though the board had already acknowledged the use of unlicensed investigators was wrong, they continued to use their testimony against me in violation of state law. The board proceeded against me even though they were fully aware that they were under criminal investigation themselves. I was forced to settle or put my civil case in jeopardy. Last December, Caddo District Court Judge Michael Pittman noted that in his view, the Fourth Circuit's description of the dental board hearing was castigated in a blistering opinion. Judge Pittman then made the following observations in his view of the evidence. This court reviewed many emails and correspondence between members of the board, the investigation team, and the attorneys handling the matter before the board. I did so in camera. Those matters are under seal because of the confidential nature of the investigation. But the things in those correspondence were rather shocking, with the unprofessionalism that was shown during this investigation, and I won't go into specifics because those matters are under seal, but I was shocked at some of the things I read, some of the unprofessionalism that took place during this investigation by board members, attorneys, so forth and so on. The bottom line is that the proceedings that took place in this investigation were shocking. I just can't think of another word to describe it. It was absolutely shocking. As I sit here today, I have no faith in this dental board hearing process. None. Comprehensive board and ethics reforms are needed, but this bill is a giant first step in helping to assure due process. I ask for your consideration to help move this bill forward. Thank you.
Hey, Dr. Haygood, I'm very familiar with your situation. You and I have corresponded
Yes, sir.
over the years with my concerns with the dental board, and I'm sure you've got 5 or 6 other witnesses. I would like, and I understand the question is not, I mean, I'm sure there are, look, I have my personal dentist, I think you know about that,
Right.
went through something very similar. I mean, I referred to that, to the proceedings before that board as what I call two friends and a stranger, okay? Because, you know, the prosecutor was also the board's attorney, also ran the proceedings. The issue that I have with the bill is strictly a concern of cost. Because if everybody goes in and says, I want an ALJ, you know, the cost to the state and to the, I guess, to the losing party. I'm assuming if we do this, are we going to put something in the bill that says that if you don't prevail, if you lose before the ALJ, you have to pay those costs and fees?
Can I answer that, please?
Sure.
Currently, you already pay the fees. If you lose before the dental board, you pay all of their cost. The dental board can throw 9 false charges against you, and they can put 1 real charge. Maybe it's an advertising violation. Maybe it's something that's very small. If you lose 1 instance, you pay all of their fines and fees.
Oh, I know.
I paid $173,000.
I'm on your side on that. That's not what I'm talking about.
Well,
I'm talking about the fiscal status of the state, and because there are some boards that do a real good job of what they do, and they have, and what happens is, if, you know, believe me, if people think they can clog up the system, they can. If we have to provide an ALJ for every possible disciplinary action that comes before any board and commission of this state, we're talking about a lot of money, not just to the state, but to the participants, and you know. So
I'm a Louisiana boy. I love the state. I was raised here.
Didn't you move for a while?
North Carolina.
Yeah,
I lost my license here, and North Carolina said, we open you with open arms.
Okay.
You know, we want good dentists. We want good people to be here. Louisiana, if you want to keep good people home, then get rid of the corruption. You know, this state is commonly referred to as one of the most corrupt states in the country because of stuff like this. If it costs something to protect my license and my livelihood, I think it's worth that cost. And no matter what it takes, if I have to pay for my own third party to look at this, I would gladly pay that versus going against somebody that I know cannot be fair or impartial.
I understand.
But
understand if these people really conspired against you,
right.
There's nothing to say they're not going to conspire against you when they go testify before the ALJ.
At least you have a fair process to get out of it. Until the dental board makes a decision, you have no appeal process.
And I have thought about it, and I've said, well, is there a way we can put some type of a standard that would say, in the event that A, B, and C happens, then you can immediately ask for an ALJ? What Senator Milkovich's bill seems to say that everybody who's ever subject to a disciplinary action, any type of board action or commission action, has the right to have that decision made by the ALJ. And I'm just looking out at we've been staring at this cliff, this fiscal cliff, for the last 2 years here, and I'm just wondering, do you have a fiscal note on the bill?
I have not. I have not asked for a fiscal note. If you have a suggestion for an amendment, I just think.
I'm not disagreeing with you,
yeah,
Senator.
I understand. I do, because if you have these people's licenses are their livelihood, and as in the case of Dr. Haygood and other professionals, they've spent years and thousands of dollars, years of their lives and thousands of dollars to get this ability to make a living in a skilled profession. If Senator Allen has a good idea, don't hold out on
He
it.
was just advising me that if you request an ALJ, there's a $750 fee that goes along with that. I don't know if that's true or not.
Okay.
And I know you.
Well, I
would
knew
pay
that's
that.
better than a.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
If you say
That's good.
if you request a fiscal note, what they're going to say is go to all the boards and commissions, and talk about yes, we do have opposition. And it's going to be a big number. It doesn't necessarily mean that the state's going to have to eat it all, but they could. And again, I'm sure you've got. And I wanted to stop anybody who wants to come testify here and tell me what the story is. I agree you should have gotten an ALJ or somebody, but I'm not exactly sure that if these people are as bad as you say they are, that they wouldn't have committed the same actions before an ALJ.
I think part of that is getting the money out of this. If you lose before the board, you're responsible for all their fines and fees. Mm-hmm. In North Carolina, you don't pay any of the fines and fees for the investigative costs. Get rid of that, and it won't be like this. The current system allows for the investigator and for the attorney to racketeer the state, to go looking for stuff, to make stuff up, to keep billing over and over again. She'll tell you about that.
You've been reading my file, okay? Because that was the problem that I had with it. Yeah. Is that, and the other problem that I had with them was they would do an investigation that you didn't even know you were the subject of. Then they come to you and say, guess what? We think we have enough to suspend you for a year. But if you pay these fees and everything, we'll give you a slap on the wrist. And I said, I'd rather you get rid of them if he's a bad dentist.
Right.
So,
right.
Okay, let's hear. Senator Peacock, who's your question for? Yeah. Go, never mind, you're on. We want to wait?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say, Dr. Haygood, thank you for coming down here. Dr. Haygood was my dentist, so I know his story very well, and I appreciate Senator Milkovich bringing this bill. There needs to be something. It's not just the dental board. There are other boards that you see this time and time again, and to know that there's the $750 to give some kind of alternative, because what you've gone through, and when you left, too many people our age have left our great state, and I just want to appreciate you for continuing your quest to write this, and thank you, Senator Milkovich, for helping out Dr. Haygood.
Thank you very much, Senator Peacock, and of course all the credit goes to Jesus and Dr. Haygood. We do have a couple witnesses that we feel like some important things that have taken time off of work. Ms. Chenevier.
Let me just say this, if you could, and I hate to, it's late in the day. Okay?
I understand.
If you could briefly tell us your situation and those other people, I don't see, and I don't mean to speak for the committee, but I got a whole bunch of green cards here, and none of the opposition wants to speak.
Okay. So
they're not here.
Okay.
And two of them represent the Louisiana Manufactured Housing Association. So I don't know what that's all about. Yes, you can, Senator Cortez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Milkovich, it appears that we need a fiscal note. Yeah. So before we do anything, if the fiscal note were to come back with $100,000 or more, we have a dual referral to finance.
Okay.
You're aware of that. So, but the title of this bill appears to be able to deal with the fees that are charged by these boards in the investigative process. So you might be able to take this bill in a different direction if you were so inclined. I'm not suggesting you do either, but I would think that if you were to get reported to the floor, I think it would probably be with the, with the intent that you get a fiscal note.
Yes, sir.
Rather than leaving it in committee
Why is the camera doing
to
that?
get the fiscal note and come back in a week or 2 weeks to redo the testimony. I too agree with you, and we've had, at this committee oversees a lot of these boards and commissions, we have had that scenario that you brought up come before, at least most of us on the committee. I've been on it since I've been in the Senate. I've had phone calls from people who felt like they were being unduly attacked, primarily as a effect of competition. And so we have it with a lot of different boards and commissions. I had one earlier this session. So at the appropriate time, I'm going to make a motion that we report it favorably with the intent that he get a fiscal note before it be brought to the floor of the Senate.
And
Beat me to it. Okay.
I
That's,
will.
that's my
move-
motion.
Thank you very much.
Let me say this: we're gonna probably. I think that would be the mood of the committee. But for those people who took time off, and we're gonna let you testify.
Okay,
And then
thank
we'll
you.
make that motion.
Thank you
And
so
then,
much.
I'll withdraw
obviously-
my motion.
Okay. Well, either way. Well, what's that? Oh yeah.
I'm sorry, you withdrew your motion?
Until such time that they testify. I
Let me
don't
say
want
this.
to be out in front of the
I
the
also,
testimony.
before we pass it out of here, I want to offer an amendment, which is amendment number 1982, and it deals with some people. I know that when they're going through the testing and everything, some people have ADA issues and ADA recognized disorder. So this amendment would just say any board or commission within this title may develop a process to issue a license, permit, or certificate outside the national examination for those individuals with an Americans with Disability Act recognized disorder. It doesn't do any harm to you, Bill.
Okay, sir.
I'm going to offer that amendment. Is there any questions on that amendment? Is there any You want to wait? You want to see it? Take a look at it. I don't want.
Thank you, Senator Martini. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And while y'all looking at it, I'll read the cards. We have a card from Burgess McCraney of the Louisiana Motor Vehicle Commission, a white card. In support, we have Robert Burns individually, Ryan Haygood, Diane Chenevert, Randall Wilk. I think he's one of the people who wants to speak. So does Ms. Chenevert. I see you there.
Yes, sir.
Reverend Freddie Lee Phillips. You want to speak, Mr. Phillips? Well, okay, we'll go. Okay. Nick Gotro, representing Opelousas General Health System, in support but does not wish to speak. Jennifer Maruzak, Louisiana State Medical Society, in support, does not wish to speak. Lauren Bailey, Louisiana Medical Society, State Medical Society, in support, does not wish to speak. Greg Wazell, Vice President of Governmental Regulatory with the Louisiana Hospital Association, in support, does not wish to speak. Chris LaBeouf, Louisiana State Medical Association, in support, does not wish to speak. Scott Kirkpatrick of the Louisiana Dental Association, in support, does not wish to speak. Greg Gossin, Louisiana Chapter of American Academy of Pediatrics, in support, does not wish to speak. In opposition and not wishing to speak are Lenny Kapowski of Priority Solutions, Hunter Duke of the Louisiana Manufactured Housing Association, and same guy, Hunter Duke. So, okay, has everybody had a chance to look at the amendment? Is there any objection to the amendment? That amendment is adopted. Ms. Chenevert.
Good afternoon, Chairman. I'm glad to put a face to the person I heard so much about.
Is that good or bad?
Both.
Don't answer that question.
Both. Well, Dr. DeLeo spoke
okay.
very highly of you, but
Thank you very much.
everyone else didn't. Thank you.
Okay, that's enough. Everybody else.
I didn't.
I'm just-
Okay, and thank you, the rest of the committee, for giving me the time. My name is Diana Chenevert. I worked for Louisiana State Board of Dentistry as an administrative coordinator from 2005 to 2015. I was in charge of licensing, anesthesia permits, all data input, and for the last 3 years of my employment there, I was the records retention manager. Although I was not in charge of disciplinary actions, I saw and heard many things that ended up bothering me in the end. Okay? Bear with me one second. I'm going to try to make this as brief as possible, okay? I witnessed unethical and potentially illegal informal hearings and consent decree methods, meaning all consent decrees were typed up prior to the dentist showing up for the hearing. Fees were inputted. They were the judge, jury, and executioner of all the dentists that they brought in. Prior to informal hearings, consent decrees were typed with penalties and fines. Since the dentists weren't allowed to have attorneys present, most were scared into signing them. The informal hearings was a waste of time. The dentists were declared guilty by those disciplinary committees before the hearing, and rarely were any decrees ever changed after listening to what each dentist had to say. I saw board members both filing and directing penalties against dentists that are practicing in their areas. The worst two, and I don't want to speak ill of the dead, but Dr. H.O. Blackwood, and it's the first time I got to meet, where is he? Dr. Haygood. Thank you for, I work for the federal government now, but thank you, Dr. Haygood, for that. And Dr. Gary Chumley, also of Shreveport. Dr. Conrad, he's better known as Chip, McVeigh, what he did against Dr. Joey Lacoste, what he tried to do, and chased Dr. Gregory Greenwood out of the state of Louisiana, and Dr. Gregory Fultz, who lost his mobile dentistry practice. I know personal emails were used to conduct and discuss disciplinary actions and complaints against Dr. Haygood. Even though I specifically told staff and board members not to destroy any of the documents once we received the lawsuit information from Dr. Haygood, the information was shredded, pertinent information to his case, and emails, personal emails that were being discussed among the different board members that weren't a part of the committee were deleted from their computers, which is against records retention. Legal and disciplinary documents were destroyed by board personnel. They were shredded. They were put into a big blue bin and brought off to be shredded by company. Again, even though I specifically told staff members, because again, I was the records retention manager, not to destroy anything, documents concerning lawsuits, complaints, and other pertinent information were gathered and sent to the shredding bin by board personnel. I heard investigations being authorized by board members against their local competitors without complaints being filed. I overheard Dr. Conrad McVeigh instruct board investigator Camp Morrison to go after Joey Lacoste without any complaints sent in to the board, which eventually chased off Dr. Gregory Greenwood, who is now in Las Vegas practicing. Well, Nevada, sorry. I witnessed personal vendettas by board members against their competitors. I have to discuss school-based dentistry and the board fight against it. The entire fight was a lie created to protect the income of dental offices treating Medicaid kids. This group of dentists teamed up with Dr. McVeigh and other board members, mainly pediatric dentists, It was horrible. After school-based dentistry won the right to practice, the group added dentists to the board who were specifically against this treatment. I doubt any kids would have been treated outside the offices of this group had they won. Honorable dentists were attacked for trying to do good things for poor kids. The company that took over Medicaid, I like to call it the Medicaid mafia, it's basically run by the pediatric dentist. Dr. McVeigh was the worst of all. He personally sent in complaints using names of existing patients. Once I personally received a fax myself, the complaint was written against Dr. Gregory Falls. He instructed on his fax to use a fraudulent name for the complaint and a phone number and address that wasn't true. There was unfair and burdensome penalties were given to competitors of board members who actually gave out penalties. Dr. Haygood, Dr. Catherine Southern Beauregard, Dr. Gregory Greenwood, Dr. Wilk. I'm sorry. Thought you were Wilk. I was getting ready for Satcher. This is the first time I met Dr. Wilk also, but he did give me a lot of grief on the phone. But they were after him, so I mean, I was like the fun desk. I mean, I issued licenses.
Let me ask you something. Is this the first time you're telling anybody about this?
No, I was deposed by Dr. Haygood's attorney, and that's the reason.
No, but I mean, did you ever report this to any of the authorities?
No.
You know. I mean, look, I agree.
To?
Well, I would hope you would. I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying, you know, I mean, this is all of this is good reason to support Senator Milkovich's bill, but I mean, you know, I mean, it sounds like some. Look, I was personally involved in the Lacoste, Dr. Lacoste thing. That's why I brought it up. That's.
Oh, yes, I did speak to the Inspector General.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. And did you? Are you familiar with the work we've done over the last couple of years with the dental board? I mean, are you telling me this is still going on, or when did you leave?
In 2015, after I did my testimony, my deposition for Dr. Haygood, life was pretty miserable at the board for me. So I.
Well, if you said all those things, I'm sure it was.
Well, I mean, I told the truth.
No, I'm not. I'm not being critical of you. I'm just trying to say that some of the stuff you're telling me about sounds criminal. I know it's violent. I mean, you're talking about destroying public records.
Well, yes, and I was.
And again, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure that if you were before an ALJ, if those people were as bad as you say they are, that they wouldn't have testified that same way. So, but nonetheless, okay. I mean, that's fine. I mean, we're convinced that what you went through, but if you want to keep going, some of the members do have to leave though. But
okay.
Do you have a lot more?
Not really. I mean,
Summarize in a sentence.
Basically, at one time, the executive director was Pete Burkhalter.
Right.
Right before my deposition, he told me. He demeaned me, called me dumb, because I'm from Chalmette. He, don't laugh. He recorded, I recorded him after so many attacks on my phone. And he told me that about and I tell the truth or would not have a job with the state of Louisiana.
You have that on a recording?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And maybe I understand that we're running out of time, and I don't want.
Well, he's been gone for about 2 or 3 years. I know, because that other guy, Rusty, is the.
And I don't know whether we
executive.
have time to hear from Dr. Wilkes for a few minutes or not. I'll defer to you.
Well, no, I'm not gonna. I want to hear what Dr. Wilk has to say.
I can be brief.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Dr. Randall Wilk, and I have been a victim of the board. And I always thought I was being shook down by them, and all this stuff has pretty much been confirmed, and they're right. The way she describes it, you get a complaint, and the complaint is usually from a board member or the board's investigator, and some of the complaints are crazy. One of them said that I was, at least it was spoken over to me over the phone by the executive director, that I was suspended from the Medicare, the Medicaid program, and it listed a whole bunch of stuff which is factually and easily verifiable, never happened. But I was invited to come in to an informal thing where the consent decree was already typed up, and it had, I was going to agree to a $5,000 fine. And I looked at the document and I said, I'm not going to sign this piece of paper. I'm not going to retain counsel, and we're going to, this is craziness. And I was told by the board members who were, two of them were sitting with me, that either leave today, I sign right here, or the board has the ability, they could fine me for every instance or every violation. It could amount to hundreds of thousands of dollars. They then left for a few minutes, came back, an adding machine, put the adding machine in front of me and started typing in the numbers, peeled it off and said I could owe them $100,000 if I didn't sign this piece of paper right here. And then that's, it sounded like something out of The Godfather. I was waiting for Luca Brasi to come around the corner from me. And realized, the reputation of the board goes back decades, that they're the judge, jury, and the executioner. We went to this trial, the mock trial, and it was a kangaroo court. The person presiding over it was Mr. Burkhalter, who eventually became the executive director of the board, the executive director of the board's attorney, Brian Begay. The accusations were unfounded. They were ridiculous. Nevertheless, the board found me guilty on all counts and fined me $25,000, and then responsible for all the board's costs, which was $80-something thousand.
I think we better stop. We're taking up too much of your
How did it end up?
Well, actually, the rule saying that I had, my lawyers kept saying to me, why do you even have I'm a licensed physician. I'm a licensed dentist also in this state, and I also have a PhD. I was an academic for most of this time. And he said, the way the law is written, you don't have to, it says you can use the third part, you can use a licensed physician to provide your anesthesia services. Why do you even have an anesthesia permit? And I said, because the board sent me a renewal thing every year, and I sent them a check every year. And we all, you don't want to get crosswise with the dental board, so
Did you end up paying?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I didn't realize one of my checks got shredded. And Miss Chenevert, I didn't know that until she told me.
I didn't shred it.
So she didn't do the shredding, but she
That's
told
all
me
right.
that they had the check and they shredded it.
Well.
And then said, oh, he never paid the fine.
I think the committee has gotten the message here. So, thank you all for coming. I'm sorry I had to limit some of your testimony. Senator Perry, did you want to say something? Ask something?
Well, very briefly, if you had an opportunity to look at the bill, as let's say it's a former administrator, but somebody that took care of it as far for practicing dentists, correct? The bill would at least give you some type of light at the end of the tunnel compared to what you went through. Is that correct?
Well, I'm not a dentist. I work
No, I
there.
understand that.
But I would say that it would give them some light, because even if you told the dentist, look, you can go to an administrative hearing, it's going to cost you $750. I know most of these dentists that went through this stuff, they would have paid the $750.
Well, that's my point. $750, $170,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
So-
a no-brainer, and you know that the dental board never loses in their thing, and they win 100% of the time, no matter what the charges are, no matter what the evidence.
You haven't
because
been
I
here.
can't. I
I've
mean,
been fighting
seriously,
with them for years.
I can't even I can't even imagine what some of y'all had gone through. I mean,
If you'll let me speak for a second, they were changing. They sponsored a bill a couple years ago, changing the language, saying that you couldn't use the services of a licensed physician. If it was a third-party physician who was also dentally licensed, that they would be disqualified for that. I came to that to testify at that hearing. I think Senator Heitmeyer, I think, was chairing the particular committee that was
Yes,
doing that.
Senator David
And
Heitmeyer.
they saw me there, and I get pulled aside by Peyton Burkhalter, who is now the executive director of the board, and Heitmeyer, and he said the board decided that they're going to.
Who was then he's not he's talking about Pete Burkhalter? He's been gone for a couple of years. It's Rusty, whatever.
Hickam.
Rusty
Hickam.
Hickam is what.
Right.
Anyhow, Burkhalter says, well, the board has decided that they're going to withdraw the complaints against me, and I didn't think I would hear anything of it ever again until about 6 months ago. 6 months ago, I am renewing my hospital privileges, and on the board's website, if you go to there, it'll have the disciplinary actions against me.
Currently?
Currently. If you go to their website now and put my name in and print it up, it's all there. The board also wants to go after me for their legal costs. That is the cost that they paid Begay and
Brian
Camp
Begay.
Morrison.
Morrison
And they
is
actually-
Morrison. He's gone.
Yeah, but they had
So is Begay, and so is who was the other guy? What there?
Ogden.
Ogden.
They attached, they got a judgment against me and attached to my bank accounts and my practice. And at one point, they were withdrawing $4,000 at a time 4 years ago. I missed payroll, and 2 of my employees quit because of this.
I wish I had heard from you when I was. Believe me, I've had like a 5-year ordeal with
I
them.
was going back and work with my.
That's why last year, in fact, what I said was, well, since y'all can't hear me being in New Orleans, why don't you move to Baton Rouge? And that's why they're having to move to Baton Rouge.
I
And in the interim, every time they came to meet with me, they wanted to talk about things, but all they really wanted to talk about is why they couldn't move to Baton Rouge. Well, now they're in Baton Rouge.
I spoke with Cameron Henry, who's my representative where I live in Metairie. And I know he had tried to intervene, but it seemed like that there's really, at this point, no recourse against the board. They are the jury, the judge.
I'll just say this: all of your issues are well taken. The only concerns that I had, and I said it early on, is the fiscal note on this bill may kill it. So that's why we need to get the fiscal note. Okay, so thank you all for doing it. Senator Cortez, was he going to do it? I'll move that we report the bill favorably. Did we amend it? As amended. Is there any objection? That bill be reported favorably as amended. And I'm going to suggest to you that we'll relook at it up on the floor once we get a fiscal note. Okay?
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much, and I want to thank on behalf of the dentists and all the licensees in the state of Louisiana, thank you all very much.
Okay.
Senator Mizell.
Well, I see. Okay. Thank you. Senator Mizell moves that we adjourn. Is
Thank
there
you
any
very
objection?
much. Thank you.
There's no objection. We adjourn.